are going to be really very quick. So the next one is a panel session, the last panel session, I think so. So please, once again, a round of applause as we welcome Nnena Okorie to come up and coordinate that session. Please, a round of applause. Thank you.
Welcome back. We'll be talking about learning outcomes from the educator's perspective. So I'll give the media team some minutes to introduce my guests.
Next up, we have Kemi Ogusanya, a core and versatile educator. She obtained a first degree in English education and a master's degree in education administration and planning from the University of Lagos. Kemi prides on attaining success with the children she works with through genuine love and concern, and strongly believes that establishing meaningful relationships with children is a critical factor to learning. She is passionate about advancing the cause and rights of the girl child and partners with various initiatives to achieve this. Please give a round of applause for Kemi Ogusanya.
A round of applause.
I'm good here, right?
Coming up now is panel discussion 2, where we will be talking about focusing on learning evidences of students. Please allow me to introduce our speakers. Bankole Gbemiga, a biology teacher with the Lagos State government, skilled in the use of the lecture method in classrooms and trains teachers on the Socratic process in teaching and learning. Gbemiga considers herself as an intentional teacher and fights for hands-on practices in our classrooms. Bankole Gbemiga is versatile in strategic planning, research, and public speaking. Please put your hands together for Bankole Gbemiga Afolabi.
Welcome, Ma.
Hi. I'm going well. Good to see you. Hi, Kemi. How are you?
So let the show begin. These are educators, teachers who have made a difference in their schools and their classrooms. And I'm actually excited that they're here today because they'll be sharing some of their life experiences with us as regards learning outcomes. So I'll start with you. Why did you decide to be a teacher? Did you actually study education in school?
Okay, yes, so I studied education for my first degree, but I actually did not want to teach. I mean, I felt like I could do other things. But I got to a point, so I was in a job, I was in the, labor market, looking for a job and all of that. And then I decided, okay, so let me use my education degree. Somehow it worked out. Like the first time I pushed out an application, I got lots of responses, and then I decided to teach. And then, so I found myself here, and then I love it, yeah.
How about you?
I didn't start up as a teacher either. I have a first degree in microbiology. So I guess when the opportunity came through the Lagos State government, I just took it up. But then I think one of the things that made it feel like this was what I wanted to do was how passionate I've been towards passing knowledge, if I can put it like that, even whilst I was still a little girl. So.
Wow, okay. So I just wanted you to know that there are also, like many of us here, who decided to come into the teaching profession for one reason or the other, and they have chosen to stay in the teaching profession. So let's go straight to the topic, learning outcomes. How can you tell that a student has really learned? Is it about the child scoring an A or something else? How do you know a child has learned? So I'll start with you.
Okay, so how can I tell that a student has learned? For example, I teach literacy. That's grammar, creative writing, spelling, and all of that. The first thing to know as teachers, to decide or to know if a student has actually learned, is to understand the concept of multiple intelligences. Most times as teachers, we want to judge children based on just written mastery without understanding that there are various kinds of mastery. For me to understand that a student has learned my topic, I need to recognize the fact that student A is different from student B. Student A has interest patterns, and then I must tailor learning to suit that student. A student who has learned a particular topic I'm teaching must be able to demonstrate a meaningful application of that concept. So for example, I'm teaching students, this happened recently, I'm teaching my students about play scripts in creative writing. Now, I do not expect a student to just define play scripts and then I say, so yes, you know it already. No. The child must be able to do something. The traditional approach of showing that learning has occurred is la cram la pour, permits me in local parlance, where you know something, you learn something, you just reproduce it the same way the teacher has taught you. That shouldn't be, okay? The student should be able to explain that concept in his or her own words, must be able to use analogies that make me understand that you really get what I'm teaching you. So I'm teaching you verbs, for instance, and I tell you that a verb is an action word. The student should be able to tell me something like, oh, a verb is like, maybe a verb is like a pillar in a sentence. A verb is like something. The student should be able to make meaningful connections between that topic, we're learning in the classroom and real life scenarios. So it's not just about writing, it's about doing.
Yes, and this brings me to the question one of our participants asked in the last panel discussion, talking about inquiry-based learning. And she kind of poured her concern about how she finds it so difficult, in translating inquiry-based learning into learning outcomes. How will she be able to test that a student has actually learned, with that method of teaching? So let's start with what inquiry-based learning really is. For me, I think it's practical-based learning, actually. So I have this connection between the practical-based learning and then the established standardized testing, right? So you just said something that the child should be able to connect with the environment, with the phenomenon and all that.
Scenarios.
How do you assess this skill in line with standardized testing? What can teachers do to bridge that gap? So I'll start with you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm a STEM teacher. I teach biology. I know for quite a number of years, I thought it was almost impossible to combine inquisition and hands-on when you're teaching biology. So to answer your question, I always ensure that all my behavioral objectives are viewed as questions, starting from me. So when I'm inside of a classroom, take for instance, I'm going to teach ecology of population. I know that under ecology of population, I expect that the children should know what population is. I expect that they should have an understanding of what frequency is, of what overcrowding, food shortage, all of these should be embedded in ecology of population. So I don't start off by asking them to define what population is. When I'm using inquiry-based learning, what I do is give a scenario, for instance, and ask them that countries of the world conduct census. Why do you think they do that? What do you think they use the data that they get from this census for? So, their answers have already set the tone for me to begin to build on what I'm supposed to teach on that particular day. Now, for inquiry-based learning, how do I put it now? I make sure that I engage the children in prior understanding. Make sure that everything that they need to know is redirected back from the experiences that they have had before. So I don't know if I'm answering this question right.
Yes, I think the educators here, in one way or the other, follow this kind of teaching. Am I correct? How many of us actually try to relate what you teach in the classroom to the environment?
Yes, to previous experiences.
And from previous experiences as well. Now, my main grouse and concern is, how do we test the application? Maybe I should use the word application. How do we assess the application of knowledge from the classroom to the environment? How can we bridge that gap?
Okay, I think that all the time I will always want to give examples relating to my class. Let me give a typical example. I'm in class and we're teaching man and diseases, microorganisms in action. So under this, we're looking at viruses and their benefits. We're looking at bacteria and their benefits. And after, a child comes up and asks me that, what can he do to engineer a virus and ensure that it can tackle so many other diseases? Now, you see that that child already understands that we have told him that a virus has what do I call this now? A vaccine has life-attenuated viruses that will not allow you get the other virus inside. So this particular child asking that question is going to going forward by applying that knowledge to real life experience. He's thinking, oh, okay, you're saying that life-attenuated viruses are inside of vaccines, and that's what makes them to be able to push out other viruses from attacking. How about if I'm able to produce my own virus that can do several other things? This is a child that I introduced to mini virology.
The child has not created a virus.
I hope he hasn't too. But then, you know, the good news about that class is that this child wasn't looking to create a virus that will harm the population. He was worried about what hazard COVID-19 was wrecking then, and was thinking of, oh, okay, if they are slow in bringing out vaccines, how about what do I need to do? What places do I need to be looking at to be able to manufacture my own in that sense?
At that point, you were able to assess the critical thinking level of that child.
And I was able to access that that child has successfully been able to translate learning to real life experience.
Now, that's very good. But then, as teachers, you're an English teacher, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think about terminal examinations? How can we infuse inquiry-based learning into such examinations? I have seen some exams from foreign countries where you see a lot of evidence of learning in terms of not just listing, stating, defining. You see the kind of questions asked are questions that will make the child think and relate that knowledge to the environment. What are we doing as educators to bring that into our country?
Okay, so infusing elements of inquiry-based learning into our assessments, that's what the question is. Just like I mentioned earlier, I mean, Bloom's taxonomy explains this. You cannot only test a child, or it's improper to test a child or a student with only questions like define, list, measure. That's how we grew up, right? Just define it. Once you define it, you're able to explain it, list this, you're fine. You get the question right. But there's more that should be done. Just like the example I was stating earlier, I'm teaching the children play scripts. I'm not going to ask them what a play script is during their exams. I'm not going to tell them to list features of a play script. No. They're going to put all of those things into practice. They're going to probably write play scripts. Everything they've learned about play scripts, the use of dialogue, the use of props, characterization, all of that. They're going to demonstrate it. Definition, stating, that's low-level testing. Inquiry-based learning is all about high-order questioning, things that spark up creativity, problem-solving in the children. I think that's what it is.
Yes, but then, I'm still coming to but then. You're done with your class.
Okay.
You're teaching them, you've taught them, you've done everything. You've brought in all these ingenious, ideas to your classroom. And then this child has to write WAEC.
Okay.
You know why I'm asking this question? I see a lot of teachers face so much pressure and stress during WAEC examinations, during NECO examinations, and all these terminal external examinations. And you see them going to school even on Sunday to prep, am I lying? To prep students for these exams. And I keep asking, what has been going on since that child joined the secondary school education, for instance, from JSS 1 or grade 7? Because this kind of questions should make us think that as a teacher, you're doing your own part, you're doing inquiry-based learning. But then, are you sure we are not overemphasizing on this type of learning, and then towards their terminal examination, the students go back to the status quo? So what do you think is the dilemma, and how can we solve it at this point?
Yes, seriously, every time we get opportunities like this question comes up, and oftentimes I'm at a fix. Let me give another example. A particular year, WAEC asked us to prepare specimen for biology, and then the specimen list came with toad, relia of toad, and the other one was relia of mammalian lung. Of course, as a biology teacher, I knew that they were going to ask these children to compare a particular physiological activity, and that will be gaseous exchange. Now, the children already know the theoretical aspect of gaseous exchange. We have told them about inhalation and exhalation. But you know that if I'm going to answer that question, I think gradually these examining bodies, these standardized tests that we're giving them, they are gradually beginning to infuse a bit of real-life experiences into them. Because take that example, for instance. A lot of the children only knew that the basic characteristics of gaseous exchange surfaces, but they did not know what connected one to the other. They did not know what connected the toad and the mammalian lung. So, of course, that year, a lot of them got that answer wrong. And it was just simple, basic understanding of the principle of gaseous exchange. So, and that was what WAEC was aiming at. If a child understood the theory, he should be able to merge that knowledge by answering that question correctly.
Okay, so I don't know if any of the members of the audience have a question before I move to the final question. I know some of us are already thinking that, is this possible? What can be done? Or maybe there's a confusion. Okay, someone has a question.
My name is Favor Elidogo. My question is, I want to start by saying that over time I've asked teachers why they don't apply this inquiry-based learning or project-based learning. And one of the things they always say is the fact that, number one, it takes time, and because of the fact that our exam bodies don't apply, they don't set those questions in the exams, it seems as if it's a waste of time, like you said. That is why teachers are under pressure when the exam is fast approaching. So my question is, how do we make, you said the exam bodies are beginning to infuse those questions into infuse those applied learning or applied questions into their questions, but I beg to differ.
Okay.
Maybe probably it's because that is biology. But in so many other subjects, they are purely theory-based questions. So the question is, how can our exam bodies or our educational system be able to ensure that this project-based learning or inquiry-based learning is used in the classroom, and also ensure that those questions are being set for the students to answer?
All right, thank you very much. You see, I'm going to say that.
Wait, sorry, but your question is related to this one, so it's the same question. Go straight to the question.
Oh.
So good afternoon, everyone. So just like he said, was actually what I deal with is flipped classroom. And then I was at a training last week, and I was training the teachers on how to implement a flipped classroom, which is very practical, like inquiry-based learning too. And one of the questions raised is that we are talking about this method of teaching, which is very good, fantastic. It helps students develop the normal learning skill, the 21st century skills that they needed. But the problem is, and then we have been able to realize that it makes them actually learn what they ought to learn, which is the goal of education. But the question the teachers are asking that day was that the assessment is not based on, the examination body don't assess students based on what they learn or what they know, but based on all these things that we're saying, divination, type, we are just normal, traditional, the low-level learning, low-level assessment. So my question is, what are we doing about changing these things? Or what can we do about it? Because trust me, we can't continue going like this.
Okay.
So
Should
it's a
I?
major concern.
Yes. Well, I was going to say earlier that as a teacher, I like to label myself as an intentional teacher. No, now, it's not about what the examining body wants to do or what they don't want to do. It's about what I want to do and what I intend, my end result intention for those children. So if I'm in a class and I'm teaching a particular topic, I'm ensuring that these children, at the end of every lesson, at the end of that particular topic, they are able to still utilize whatever information that they are able to gather across board, irrespective of where they find themselves. Now, am I also preparing them for regional exams? Yes. Am I preparing them for national and state exams? Yes. Am I, in the course of teaching them, asking them to define, asking them to list? Yes. But then, am I stopping at just that? No. That does not make me a total educator. That does not make me somebody who is doing the job as is supposed to. So every time when I have something to do, when I have a class to teach, I know that eventually my children will be writing WAEC. Eventually they will be writing NECO. But after WAEC, after NECO, they will go into the university. They will I'm a global learning partner with the British Council Connecting Classrooms. I'm also right now doing Commonwealth with them. And these children that I have are in talks, partnership with other children from Wales, from Birmingham. If I'd limited my interaction with my children with just, like Kemi said, low-level cognition, then they wouldn't consider themselves as global citizens. So I don't stop there. That other man was saying that teachers consider that project-based learning is time-consuming. Well, it is, but when you structure your time, you get it done. There was a particular year I was moved to a new school, and when I got there, I was given SS1 biology. It was time to teach ecology or population, and there was not a single basic ecological tool in the lab. And there is no way you can teach that without showing them. Do you know that the children of SS1 that year re-equipped the biology lab with the basic ecological tools using locally sourced materials from within the school complex? Yes, from within the school complex. Did I do project-based learning? Yes. Will my children be able to answer questions that WAEC will ask them on ecology and population? Oh, yes. They will be. They will be.
Yes, and I think teachers should desist from giving excuses, Let's find how we can make things work. I've done a lot of STEAM-based activities as well, and some of these materials are not very difficult to find. You want to teach a child about something about air pressure, you can get ordinary balloons to teach a primary one child about air pressure. That's project-based learning. You can make them do things on their own, and they're always excited about project-based learning as well. But then, how can we infuse project-based learning, for instance, in subjects like English language? Okay. How many of our children enjoy English language here? Please raise your hands. I've had interactions with students, and that's why I was excited that you're on this panel as an English teacher. And many students, especially secondary school students, do not enjoy the English language. And you'll be amazed. I made a comment in my last session that a child passed biology and failed English language. So how can we infuse inquiry-based learning and project-based learning in subjects like English language and math?
Okay, so I'll just give a practical example. Some months ago, I made a post on my social media handles that got a lot of attention. So what was the post about? I was going to teach paragraphing that day, teaching paragraphing to my year 4 children, and then I was teaching them that a paragraph basically has 3 levels. Now that day I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that would trigger their curiosity, because that's what inquiry-based learning is about. And so I went into the classroom that day with a little piece of hamburger. Now, getting into the front of the students with the hamburger, just looking at it alone, there was a lot of attention in the class. Everybody was wondering, oh, what's Ms. Ogusanya using the hamburger for? They were already talking, saying all manner of things. And then I told them that this hamburger is related to the topic we are doing today, which is paragraphing. And they were looking at me, wondering. And I asked them to think, how is this little piece of hamburger connected to paragraphing? They were looking at it. And then they were saying all manner of things, but finally we got to the point that the hamburger has 3 layers, right? The top layer, the middle layer with all the vegetables and all that, and then the bottom layer. And they said, yes, Ms. Ogusanya, that's the way a paragraph is. A paragraph will always have, the topic sentence, the supporting sentence, and then the concluding sentence. And that totally hit the nail on the head. They understood that concept of paragraphing. So, for me, I feel you want to infuse elements of project-based learning into literacy. Make it real. Make it fun. I mean, people like, I'm sure some of us here know Mr. Olasukomi Okpaifa. He's a literacy educator that has gone on to win global prizes, even from Nigeria. He proposes the concept of edutainment. And so you see him, even when he teaches his SS3 classes, he's using fun, he's using videos, he's using rap songs, he's using all manner of things to make all those difficult concepts in literacy come alive. That's what we do as literacy teachers. Make the learning come alive, spark up curiosity in the learners.
Wow, a round of applause for her. I'm sure we're picking some pointers, and it's also good that a lot of us are here and will take back what we've discussed to our various classrooms. I'm not here to overflog what we have to do. We all have that creative spark in all of us as educators, as teachers. Look deeply. That particular topic you're about to teach, there must be something that will entertain that child in your class. I always say that teachers are the best actors and actresses. We are comedians. We are also dramatists. So when you get into your classroom, think of that one thing that will entertain that child while you deliver the content of your lesson. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of this session.
So our next speaker